Hello.
Hello, hello.
Season finale.
Season 2 finale. In what, well, I mean, we call them seasons. I think it's probably been a little bit grand, but yes. Basically, we fancy a break for a few weeks, so
A collection
let's.
of episodes that have naturally run their course.
That's it. So let's call it a season, and it ties in quite nicely with the new Marvel film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So we've decided for this episode is going to be a 100% Doctor Strange from
Yep.
wall to wall coming out of our arseholes. Um, because,
Where
you
else is
love
it
it.
going to come from?
Exactly. Um,
But also, the reason why is that we've both been lucky enough to see the new film the
we
week of
have,
release,
we have, which is a
and
rare occurrence
a
these
very
days
rare
for me.
occurrence.
Um,
So we thought we'd just have a massive spoiler-filled episode where we
yes.
dissect it. We've got some listener comments that we'll talk about.
Yep.
And basically just sort of have a bit of a nerd out. So
Yeah.
this is your spoiler warning. We will be talking about the plot, we will be talking about cameos, we will be talking about plot progression. If
We
you've not
will.
seen it, skip this episode, come back to it once you've seen it.
I mean, yeah. When we say spoilers, we mean spoilers. We are kind of not going to hold back. We're going to cover everything. So,
Fair warning.
fair warning indeed. Fair warning indeed.
Okay.
Um,
So first off,
so,
maybe let's give the listeners a tickle of what format did you see it in?
oh, I saw it in the fake IMAX one,
Is that a
which is,
not 4DX super screen?
well, it's the one that View have. So View do the IMAX things, which aren't real full-sized IMAX screens, but they're basically IMAX certified for picture and sound quality and things.
Right.
So they're fairly well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looked and it sounded fantastic, but it isn't your full size 5 story high IMAX screen, right?
Righto.
But it's certified and quality controlled by IMAX to be as good as it could possibly be without actually being an IMAX screen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Yeah, normally there's an Odeon near me normally that does their own version called iSense, which is same idea, but the screening times and whatnot didn't line up, so I ended up going to the View instead.
Okay,
How
fair
about you?
enough.
How about you? What was your?
I was lucky to have advanced preview tickets,
Hmm.
so I managed to see it Tuesday before release on a Thursday
Hmm.
through some mental circumstances. And it happened to be an IMAX showing, which was just a nice surprise. And because it was pre-release, we had to put our phones into little sealed bags, and
Oh,
it was
really?
oh yeah, it was
Oh, it's
really
proper
strange.
preview screening kind of thing.
Proper preview.
Oh, right. Okay.
And free popcorn, bottle of drink, and some button badges, which was
Fantastic.
very pleasant.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah,
That's
the
great.
IMAX was I haven't seen much IMAX really in my time, and I
Hmm.
didn't realize how loud it was going to be, and I'm now having second thoughts about whether I want to see Top Gun 2 in IMAX.
Was this? Sorry, was this a proper IMAX screen?
As far as I'm aware, yes,
Okay.
it is listed as this is an IMAX,
Oh, fantastic.
but it wasn't
I
as
mean,
good as the IMAX that I've done in Leicester Square.
okay.
That one's
Right.
phenomenal.
Right. Okay. I think the best one I had was we have an IMAX in Bradford, which was the first one in the country, which is part of what used to be the National Museum of Photography, Film and Television, and it's now I think the National Media Museum or something like that.
Right.
So there's an IMAX screen there. As I say, it's the first one in the country back in the early 80s, I think, and that's like the proper, almost square, 5 stories high screen. It basically goes from the ground floor to the top floor inside
Wow.
inside the whole building. The whole museum is kind of built around the screen and the auditorium, if that
That's
makes
pretty
sense.
cool.
It is pretty impressive. But I think the best one I had was when I went to see a press screening of Prometheus
Oh yeah.
at the BFI IMAX in London.
We have talked about that privately. I'm
Yeah,
sure of it.
yeah, and that's an incredible screen. That's huge. That's huge.
But it was an experience, to say the least. One, I was
yeah.
seeing, a brand new film, but also one of the first showings to see it.
Yes.
So thank you to my friend who couldn't make the viewing.
Yeah, sucks to be him, I suppose.
But no, he certainly owed a few hooches.
Yes.
So let's get straight down to business. Doctor Strange 2.
So, in terms of the format here, as I've already said, extremely spoilerific. We're not kidding. If you don't want to know anything, stop listening and come back later. In terms of, we've both obviously seen it, and I think, other than the general feeling, I think it's fair to say we both enjoyed it. We've not talked about it.
No, we've kept ourselves to ourselves this week because, again, well, for example, you don't know if I've enjoyed it. I didn't say if I did or not, but
no,
it'll make for more interesting listening.
Yes.
Okay, so
I've got a few notes. I think you've got a few notes, and we've got a general.
It's all in my head.
Oh well, okay. We've got a general structure. As useful as that's been in the past, we've got a general structure. But yes, so let's
give us a plot. Give us a plot.
A plot summary. Okay, so basic plot: Doctor Strange and Wong find themselves unexpectedly helping out a teenage girl, America Chavez, who has a power that she can't fully control to travel through the multiverse. Now, she's on the run from someone who's trying to steal her power. She doesn't know who, but we soon discover that is actually the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, who we last saw being possessed by the Darkhold book at the end of WandaVision. She obviously, again, this requires a bit of background knowledge of WandaVision, but in that she created her own reality to deal with the death of Vision in Avengers Infinity War, and as part of that reality, she created her own family, which included a version of Vision from her imagination, as well as 2 kids. She's figured out that across the unlimited number of multiverses, there must be one somewhere where she really does have kids and she's living a happy life. And she figures that if she can track down America Chavez, she can use her powers to find that version of Wanda in that universe with those kids and take over, basically, and live that life happily ever after with her kids, and kind of without really, obviously, selfish motives, understandable, but selfish motives, and without kind of realizing the damage it could do to the stability of the multiverse and the kind of death and destruction that she's leaving in her path. So Strange and Wong kind of take America under their protection, and chaos ensues.
I'm glad you said chaos ensues, because that was going to be my link in. Chaos ensues. Now, the film opens with not our Strange, and I mean not our Strange as in our MCU Earth 616 Strange. We are introduced to Defender Strange, who is trying to help Chavez escape this demon, which we obviously then, as Mark said, is the Scarlet Witch. And I was very shocked to find he comes a cropper very quickly.
He does not last long.
He seems quite weak, which is not what I expected from a Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Although, and we'll get to this later, that's not necessarily the last we see of it.
No. So then, of course, Chavez enters this. She uses her power, comes to Earth 616, our MCU as we know it, meets our Stephen Strange, who is at the wedding of Christine. And this is where the first sort of annoyance came for me. At Christine's wedding, obviously Stephen's there as Doctor Stephen Strange, not MCU superhero Doctor Strange. And he's there in a suit, and he looks out of place. But then that Doctor from Doctor Strange 1 turns up. I can't for the life of me remember his character.
Dr. West, was it, I think?
Might be. Michael Stuhlberg or something like that, I think his name is.
Yeah.
he was on the poster, but he's there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What's the... I didn't think there was any need in that, and it was just a case of, remember this dude? It wound me up. But then, at the wedding, him and Christine make up, blah, 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 blah. Chavez turns up with this one-eyed monster thing. Which was incredible. And great fight sequence. And this is here where we see that this really is a Sam Raimi film.
Yeah. First of many sequences, actually, where it's clearly Sam Raimi.
Doesn't hold back from...
No.
It's graphic for a 12 to begin with. It's... I thought the CG was better than a lot of things that Marvel have put out of recent. Having just finished Moon Knight, that's a whole other episode. But Eternals, I thought the CG was shocking for a film of that scale. But yeah, they defeat this poor bloody squid thing by pulling its eye out, and it's their tentacly, horrible, gooey bits and all. It was a proper moment.
It was an unexpectedly gloopy moment, and I think it was the sound effects, the squelchy pop.
There's a few gasps in the cinema.
I thought it was fantastic. And I think you're right. I was watching that thinking, this is a Sam Raimi film. Just the way the kind of, how can I put this? You go back to something like Evil Dead. I mean, it's like, it's kind of the camera work in the Evil Dead films is practical camera work, right? It's real cameramen throwing real cameras around, etc. Whereas in this scene in Doctor Strange, it's obviously, I'm presuming virtually all of it is entirely CG, right? But it's the CG equivalent of that insane camera work. And it works perfectly. It's straight away, even though it's virtual cameras and it's a CG environment, it's got the Sam Raimi feel to it.
You feel like you're with the character rather than watching the character. And I have to say,
up close.
I was on Reddit stalking the Marvel subreddit, and somebody asked what's the best format to watch Doctor Strange 2 in. You mentioned 4DX, which is the sort of simulator version that Cineworld do.
Yeah.
Bugger that. I would be sick as a dog. And I like roller coasters, so I thought, I did 4DX for Rogue One, and it just felt so horrible. But yeah, you feel like you're in it. It's messy at times throughout the whole film. I thought, some of the sequences here are messy, but we'll come on to our favourite sequences as we move through.
Messy in what way?
I couldn't focus on certain aspects because there's so much going on. Also, I'm going to apologise for my voice. Somebody went to a concert last night and very much enjoyed themselves.
No, not you mean the kind of kinetic visuals.
I like that.
Where I think I know exactly what you mean. I think there are some filmmakers who, in an action scene, who just cut endlessly, and you can't follow what's going on because it's just being cut. There are some who pull back and let you see everything that's going on, and that's great because you get a visual sense of where everything is. And there are some like him where, again, going back to the olden days, he's literally running backwards and forwards in and out of everything with the camera, and you although you might not quite make out what's happening, you feel like you're being thrown around with whatever it is throwing you around as well, kind of thing. So it almost makes sense that you can't quite tell what's happening because you're being thrown around. But I think there's more to say on Sam Raimi. So
Wong, Strange, and now Chavez need to work out what the hell is going on. And Wong, who's amazing in the whole film, I absolutely love Wong. He's now obviously Sorcerer Supreme. Says, somebody else with magic needs to help here. Who knows that magic? And Doctor Strange, Wanda, remember her? That we had an entire series devoted to find out she's absolutely batshit. So he goes to Wanda, it's all idyllic, yada yada yada. And then something gives it away that it's not quite what we're seeing. So then we realise that, yep, she's still taken by the Darkhold, and it is her fighting Chavez, and basically she gives him an ultimatum: give me the girl, or I'm going to fuck shit up. And poor Kamatage is all I'll say. Poor Kamatage. All those people.
Shit gets fucked up. I think, that's a good sequence. Again, really kind of pushing the kind of 12 boundaries there.
The water scene, the reflections.
Yes.
Oh, it's like something out of The Ring. It was terrifying.
Well, there's a sequence similar to that in one of the, I think, remember if it's the first or second Evil Dead, but there's a sequence where Ash is looking in a mirror, and all of a sudden the reflection reaches out of the mirror and grabs him.
Okay.
And I was like really getting that Evil Dead vibe, with all the she's just to backtrack. So strange traps wander in the mirror dimension. She gets out.
That's it.
By finding anywhere in Kamatage with reflections, so mirrors, shiny metal, puddles on the floor. So you see these like arms coming out of all these puddles and mirrors and so on, as she's trying to get out of the mirror dimension. And it's just, again, just visually just so inventive, and as kind of visually inventive as the first film was in how it presented all these like folding dimensions and worlds. That was a very much sit back and watch, whereas here, like, Raimi is right in there, kind of, as we've already said, just diving in. He's not kind of sitting back to take in the grand spectacle of the whole thing. It's like,
it's quite intimate shot, really.
It is, yeah, it is, and it works really well. It's kind of, I was thinking all the way through, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to think this, but is it a case of Sam Raimi has made an MCU film, or the MCU, Marvel, have made a Sam Raimi film? Because as much as he's made Spider-Man, and he's done 3 Spider-Man films, and there were bits like the Doc Ock sequence in the second film where the tentacles go crazy in the operating theatre.
Yeah, there's horror elements to it.
Yeah, and there was that, it had those visual kinetic camera move kind of things. There weren't many of them in the Spider-Man films, whereas in this it feels much more like Sam Raimi being Sam Raimi in terms of those earlier films of his. I think there's more of that energy in this film than there are in all 3 of his Spider-Man films.
That's valid. I mean, he's a horror director, isn't he? That's where he cut his teeth. And Spider-Man, as you say, has elements. It's a straight-up action sci-fi superhero film. And coming back to the sequence of the water reflections and how she's getting out into the real universe, out of the mirror dimension, it's accompanied by those stupidly high-pitched, fast, stabby strings that you love in horror films, and it makes you jump. It really does. And we'll come on to other sequences.
You get those flash hands and quick camera moves that end on a tilt.
Yep.
And again, if you look at the... Have you seen the Evil Dead films?
I have seen parts of the original. I've definitely seen the remake.
So if you look at the originals, all 3, in fact, they've all got those quick whip camera moves that end on a Dutch, called a Dutch angle, right? That slightly tilted angle.
Right, okay.
And they've all got them. And it's literally like watching... not like watching an Evil Dead film, but it's literally like... If you didn't know it was Sam Raimi directing it beforehand,
you'd have a guess at the end of it, kind of thing.
You'd know it's Sam Raimi directing it, kind of thing.
So,
and I love that. I love that about it.
So shit goes south. Wanda's now very much after Miss America, and she finds out that she can use her power when she's just full of fear. And obviously, you've got the Scarlet Witch coming after you. She's terrified. She then opens a portal and pulls Strange through it, right? Or he pulls her through it. One other way. Again, you saw it more recent than I did, but
So what is it now? So at this stage in the story, Chavez doesn't appear to be able to control her power. As you say, this ability to open portals and jump through the multiverse only kind of manifests itself when she's in fear, almost like a self-defense mechanism kind of thing. And yes, as you say, Scarlet Witch is shit scared. A portal opens and Chavez jumps through, and I think, if I remember rightly, Strange jumps in after her.
I'm sure, because they end up going through a few universes.
They go through a few, which again is just like, it's a short. It lasts maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, but it goes through this insane stream of universes. There's the shot from the trailer.
His face is all blocky and stuff.
Yeah, it's like all cubes, right?
Oh, and the dinosaur.
There's the one with the dinosaur in it. There's the one where they turn into paint, and later on he goes, "Was one of those universes paint?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't like that universe. It's really hard to get anything to eat."
Yeah.
One of them is like an animated one.
Yep.
Where they're like hand animation. And it's just like, I wanted more of those.
Yeah, I was hoping they were going to explore more of that.
Can we stop in one of those for a couple of minutes? Do you know what I mean?
But this is where they end up at Earth 838, which
that's right. So they finally come to a rest in Earth 838.
Still in New York.
Yep.
But it's like a utopian New York. It's everything's
kind of
green. It's not
sci-fi, flying cars kind of thing. A few
we
differences.
go on red.
We walk on red. We stop
on
on green. So Strange nearly gets run over at some traffic lights. So there's a few little differences, but generally speaking, it's kind of familiar kind of place.
This is where we get our first cameo that I'd like to interject into here. It's a Sam Raimi film. Who do you think will show up here?
Oh, let me think. Could it be Bruce Campbell?
Groovy.
Groovy indeed. Yeah.
What a cameo this was.
What a cameo. And it wouldn't be a Sam Raimi film without Bruce Campbell. And he plays...
Papa's Pizza's going to get paid or whatever it was.
That's it. Pizza Papa, something like that. He plays a street food vendor, right? And America thinks she can have, she thinks in this universe the food's free. Turns out it's not, and Pizza Papa wants paying. So Strange casts a spell where, of course, again, if you've seen Evil Dead, you'll recognise it, where Bruce Campbell basically slaps himself continuously.
I wondered if that was an Evil Dead nod.
It's an Evil Dead 2 nod.
Okay.
Where Ash, his character, his hand becomes possessed.
Okay, is that why he chops it off?
Yes.
Right, spoiler alert, but okay.
So his hand beats him up, basically. And there's a whole sequence in Evil Dead 2, which I think Bruce Campbell just kind of... what's the word? Hang on.
Goes ape
what's
shit?
The word? No, yes, he does, but it's the word where he's not rehearsed it. He's improvised. Rewind.
No. That was genuine. That was good. You keep that in you.
All right. So there's a sequence in that Bruce Campbell improvised where he gets beaten up by his own hand, basically. So he's punching himself, smashing plates over his head, grabbing his head and like forcing him to do like a forward somersault kind of thing. All this crazy stuff.
But it was one of my favourite lines in this sequence was obviously they then walk off because Pizza Papa is... Yeah. How long is that going to last? Oh, is that permanent? No, it'll wear off. After how long? 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like...
So, no, that was great. That was a great... Obviously, Bruce Campbell, can't go wrong. It was a great, fun cameo and a great, obviously, another callback, Evil Dead style, to kind of previous stuff. So that was fun. So they then soon arrive at the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Because that's going to be a common place for them to have a bit of an idea as who they're going to find there.
Yeah.
And when they arrive at the Sanctum, there is a statue outside of Doctor Strange.
Of that universe's Doctor Strange,
which
who we find out...
Yeah, 838 Strange.
Yeah, who we find out as... Yes, this is 838, so this is Strange number 3, who we find out who died defeating Thanos.
So we're like, oh, okay, so who's looking after the Sanctorum?
Well, that would be Mordo.
But not our Mordor. Mordor. Blah.
Not our Mordor. This is the 838 universe's Mordor, who, in contrast to the last time we saw our Mordor at the end of the first Doctor Strange film, appears to be best buds with
That doesn't last
his
long.
Doctor Strange. Doesn't last long, but they go inside. Our Strange in America bring Mordor up to speed on what's been happening,
And he gets it because 838's Strange also had an inkling about the multiverse. So
yep,
838's Mordor was like, yeah, cool, okay, I get it.
Yeah, and we were, our Strange did warn us this might happen, etc. And I think, if I remember rightly, that universe's Darkhold is in the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yes, they're looking after it
under lock and key, so it's safe apparently. However, the friendly little chat with Mordo seems to have been a ruse, because sure enough they are drugged, basically. The sneaky little tinker put something in their tea, and they next wake up under lock and key themselves. And where are they being kept?
The Baxter Building.
The Baxter Building.
What's that I hear you say? When did we last hear about the Baxter Building? I'm glad you asked, Dan. Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. So, a few murmurs in the audience when I was watching it of recognition of the Baxter Building. But more interestingly, who should be working there but Christine, or that universe's Christine.
Yes.
As a scientist who worked with their Strange and whatever organisation she's currently working for. And she basically says, we can't trust this version of Doctor Strange because clearly something happened with their version of Strange that they're trying to keep a little bit to themselves at this stage. But for whatever reason, they don't trust Stephen Strange. They don't seem to trust any version of him. So here, I think, is where, in terms of what I was looking forward to most, was probably, I don't know if disappointed is the wrong word, but I
underwhelmed.
I think this kind of bit now is where they could have really gone all in, and this is where a lot of the rumours, were kind of circulating. And
well, take it a step back from
the
rumours and versus the film. The trailer. So at this point, Strange is obviously a prisoner.
Yep.
He gets taken by Ultron robots, successful Ultron Sentinels, to meet a council sort of thing, which is confirmed as the Illuminati.
Yes.
However, the trailer gives away certain members of the Illuminati. And
the only one it really confirmed explicitly was Professor X.
Captain Carter too.
Well, the more recent trailers have done, yes.
Sure, but
yeah, okay, yeah.
So we know Patrick Stewart reprised his role as Professor X, and we get a comic book accurate Professor X in my eyes, and I loved it. Yellow hovering chair, green suit. But then we're introduced to 838's Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau.
Yep.
Captain Carter, of course, which ties into the What If series. So Hayley Atwell, Captain Carter.
Yep.
We're reintroduced, maybe, but I don't think anybody watched Inhumans. To Black Bolt, which was a surprise, and I picked up on it, but not a lot of other people did.
No, not a lot did. But yeah, because as you say, I just don't think Inhumans was that big of a thing. I mean, it was a pretty crappy program, and I just don't think many people watched it.
No, but it's the same actor.
which is good, to be fair, because he's a good actor, right? So I'm glad that they at least brought him back.
But they're my favourite. Absolute favourite. When they're introducing the Illuminati, who takes the seat but Mr. Reed Richard himself, the head of the Fantastic Four, played by John bloody Krasinski.
Yes.
Jim.
Yeah.
Jim is in the MCU.
Jim is in the MCU. So I think that one definitely got the most kind of reaction.
Agreed.
From the audience. I thought that was great. I mean, Professor X coming on, yeah, but again, you'd heard his voice already in the trailers, and as soon as you heard his voice, people were like, "Oh, it's him," and that's great. But Reed Richards, I thought got definitely the most kind of positive response. Now, John Krasinski then has been a fan casting favorite for a long time. Certainly since Marvel announced they were going to redo Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So I think let's go back a little bit. We'll come back to the castings thing in a minute, right? So I think in terms of storyline, Wanda obviously jumping through the multiverses catches up and appears at the Illuminati headquarters. And for all these cameos that appear, I think one of the things that maybe I was a little underwhelmed with was how quickly they were kind of done away with, right?
Yeah.
There's I mean, the in an imaginative way, right? The Black Bolt death.
That was horrendous.
It was, wasn't it?
This is coming back to the MCU have made a horror film.
Yeah, they really have.
It was graphic.
But it was... Well, that's the thing. It wasn't like blood and guts and gore graphic. But there was just enough visually and audio-wise that you knew exactly what had happened.
Yeah, his brain caves in.
Yeah, but it's not like blowing gore everywhere kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, but yes, it definitely pushing the edge on a 12 in terms of what you do see and what's suggested.
Because even the reason why he ends up dying is because the Scarlet Witch melds his mouth closed. Black Bolt rightfully panics, screams, and obviously there's nowhere for his voice to go but inside. And you just see a little pop of his head, and it just sort of sink back in on itself. It's subtle, but it's just horrible.
But I think, where was I going with this? I think we'll come. Yes, what I was going to say is we'll come back to the cameos themselves and the characters and the actors. But what if I was disappointed, it was in the way that they brought these characters in who were like, "Oh, brilliant," X, Y, Z, whoever your favorite character is, or however you want to see him in action. But they really didn't last very long against Wanda, and I guess given her powers, that's not a surprise.
I think it was to give the point of like these are, the Illuminati are the powerful folk. They know what they're doing, and they can be wiped out super simple.
Yeah,
by
that's true.
Wanda also embodying 838's Wanda.
Yeah.
So she's dream walking, which is the thing, which is illegal. I think they go on about. That's one of the Darkhold's magic powers, and she's dream walking as this Wanda. Fucks shit up, kills the Illuminati that we've only known for about 10 minutes, and we're into the next sort of chapter of the story. And you've seen it sooner than I did, so you can fill in this bit.
Yeah. so Wanda kind of dispatches the Illuminati pretty quickly. They Strange in America managed to escape to another dimension, and they managed to find bear with while I find the bloody name of this thing. Kind of the opposite of the Darkhold, which is called the Book of Ashanti. Hang on a second.
Ashanti sounds right. It wasn't the Book of Mormon.
Vishanti, right. I'll start that bit again. So they are. Oh, let me rewind a little bit. So Wanda kind of dispatches the Illuminati pretty quickly. Strange and Chavez jump again to different universes and end up in another world, which is kind of a devastated, rotting, kind of corrupt world. But again, they find, as you kind of mentioned earlier, they find that world's Sanctum Sanctorum, and looking after that one is a kind of corrupted version of Doctor Strange, who is kind of referred to as Sinister Strange. Sorry, hang on.
Oh, Raggy?
Oh, cheeky Nando's. So they find in that sanctum a version of Strange, who we shall refer to as Sinister Strange. He's been guarding that universe's Darkhold, and as you would expect, he's become corrupted by it, as you can see in some of the trailers when there's a version of Strange with a third eye in his forehead.
That was in the trailer, was it?
Yeah, one of the trailers had that.
That surprised me when he rocked up with a third eye that just popped out of his forehead.
So
Right.
he and our Strange obviously fight, because our Strange needs that universe's Darkhold to defeat Wanda.
Yeah.
To dreamwalk.
Because he needs to dreamwalk because he is stuck in this universe and he needs to go into 616, his actual universe, to defeat Wanda where she's dreamwalking.
Yes.
Wow.
Now,
one of the best sequences of the film.
It's brilliant. But interestingly, you can only dreamwalk into another version of yourself. Now, the 616 Strange isn't in the 616 universe. What is in the 616 universe is the body of Defender Strange that America Chavez brought with her at the beginning of the film. And so our Strange dreamwalks into that dead body.
Reanimates the poor
Reanimates it, and we have Zombie Strange.
Another tie into What If, maybe.
Definitely very much a callback to What If certainly in terms of the look.
Certainly.
If not the origin of that version. But yeah,
that's
definitely.
what I liked as well about, you say, the look, the aesthetics of it. Again, they don't shy away from the fact he's missing half of his jaw and his cheek and stuff. It's pretty graphic for, again,
it's a kids' film. But look back at The Dark Knight with Two-Face.
No, it's valid. I forget that was a 12.
And he had literally half his face missing as well.
Funny that, Mark.
I would say, yeah. But I would say the Two-Face was probably more graphic.
You're right. But I would argue 2008, was it, maybe?
Something like that,
2008's CG still looked a bit plasticky, whereas this doesn't.
This looks phenomenal. So, Zombie Strange and basically goes into battle against Wanda, against the Scarlet Witch. And yeah, that's possibly one of the best kind of sequences in the film.
Because he takes over... He uses the demons that are trying to protect people from dreamwalking. He takes them on and uses them. Now, again, we may come on to it, but we've sort of just gone over the plot. It was one of the best uses of horror elements in, again, essentially a family-friendly movie.
Yeah.
These things are scary, and they were jumping out at people left, right, and centre.
Yeah. Do you know, actually, it was interesting. I mean, right, I am absolute horror fiend, right? I didn't find him scary. But for a 12, I'm thinking, this is full on.
Yeah, if you took a 10-year-old to see it, which you can...
Yeah.
I would have been scared at 10. And it made me jump in certain sequences. There's some great jump scares.
And there was a grown adult in the chair next to me. Shit himself about on 3 different occasions at least, and I think on one let out a yelp.
On one occasion, I went, oh shit!
So final showdown. Obviously, the enemy is defeated, and we think everybody lives happily ever after.
Well, no, we know well, one doesn't, certainly.
Well, one doesn't know that. Yes, but in terms of who's left, the survivors, let's say, we think everyone's going to live happily ever after. But then the film ends on quite the cliffhanger.
Yes.
Where it looks like using the Darkhold has actually ended up corrupting our Strange as he collapses in the road and a third eye appears on his forehead.
Cut to black credits.
And then there's a mid-credit scene.
Yes, there is.
Bloody Charlize Theron.
I forgot that she'd been cast in a Marvel film.
Bloody... I was walking down the road and who was there? Bloody Charlize Theron.
My name is Michael Kay.
And she is playing...
Claire. Who,
so,
after a bit of research...
Yes.
Turns out to be Doctor Strange's wife.
In the comics, yeah. She's at one point his wife. She's also the niece of Dormammu.
I've come to bargain.
Who obviously Strange has...
How did Dormammu have a family?
Well,
I don't want to know.
No. But yes, she's from the Dark Dimension. And she comes to ask Strange for his help. His help to fix the problems that he's caused, but his help nevertheless. And the scene ends with them both jumping through a portal into what looks to be the Dark Dimension.
Then credits. We get
and then an end credit scene.
Well, first off, I think it's before the end credit scene. It says Doctor Strange will return.
It does indeed.
And then we get the final credit scene. And I was thinking, let's think of what they can tie up here. They could tie this into Ant-Man 3. We've seen nothing of. Thor: Love and Thunder. I thought maybe another little sneak peek to what's going to come up there. Mm-hmm. No. Bruce bloody Campbell.
More Bruce Campbell, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. And it's a brilliant one because it's simply he gives his face one final slap, looks right into the camera, and shouts, "It's over."
Yeah, proper fourth wall breaky, and again, it's done. Film's over. Go home.
Yeah, and it really gave me the vibes. Do you remember the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming where there's the Captain America clip?
Oh, where he's saying on the chair.
It's like, so you've sat here waiting all day on analysis, and this is an important lesson about how to deal with disappointment or whatever it is that he says.
That's the one.
And I just got that real vibe of this. It's like, it's over, it's finished. What are you still there for?
Why are you here, you idiots? Yeah. I think they could have done more with it, but it was amusing nonetheless.
But it was nice. It was a clever touch. In terms of the plot, I think there are because it was a few days ago that you saw it, and it was late last night that I saw it, and I'm knackered. There are going to be people listening to this screaming that we've missed out loads.
Good.
Let them scream. Let them scream. Fuck them. But I think we've covered the bulk of it. So I think let's kind of rewind.
Let's dissect some of the bits that we've spoken about.
Yeah. And so in terms of, I think one of the things we've said already, Sam Raimi's back, right? And it's undeniably a Sam Raimi film.
Head to toe.
This is not him just fulfilling a contractual obligation, possibly getting bored, possibly not liking the characters that he's filming. He did replace the original director because it was going to be Scott Derrickson, who directed the first film, and who was set to direct the second one, but left after creative differences.
But he still served as an exec producer, didn't he?
He did. Still a producer, yeah. So it's not like Sam Raimi was involved in this from day one, but it is also far from the case that he was obviously brought in just because they needed somebody. It's like Marvel went, okay, if we're going to get Sam Raimi, we need to kind of let him be Sam Raimi.
Well, yeah, because could you imagine if they toned it down on the horror? You wouldn't have had the same film at all.
Yeah, yeah. And you'd also think, why bother getting Sam Raimi?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He's done an action spider superhero film, and they were
yeah,
fantastic. But
yeah.
Marvel needed to jump in this direction. In my eyes, they
Hmm.
needed to do something a bit more grown up because that's the way they're going to go with Deadpool. They're going to have
Hmm.
to go grown up at some point. Which
Hmm.
actually, I'm glad I've said Deadpool because there was a rumor going around that Deadpool was going to appear because apparently he was in the poster, but that must have been a very good edit.
Well, let's come back to that one.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
come back to
You
that.
you
But yeah,
continue your train
yeah.
of thought.
No, I think you're right. I think they they did say when the film was first announced, back when Scott Derrickson was attached, that that within the limitations of a PG-13 stroke 12A and within the kind of Marvel limitations, that this would be a horror movie. And I think that has proven to be the case. I think it is. It doesn't have the gore, but it has the atmosphere. It's got the jump scares. It's got the tension. It's got the thrills. It's got everything that makes a good horror movie.
Just without the blood, guts, and
Without the
virgins
actual
dying.
gore side of things. And it does. As I've said, it feels like a Sam Raimi film. The camera work, the kind of just the visual inventiveness. It's yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that's the good, clearly, right?
yeah.
What for you? Because again, we have not really talked about our opinions on it, other than look at this. This is what happened. What
Mm.
for you didn't work?
I think the Illuminati stuff was. I don't think there was anything that didn't work. I thought the whole thing hung together quite well, but I think there were missed opportunities where they
Well,
could have done more. So,
I guess I spoke to my wife. Of course, I do. I live with them.
mm,
I We were talking about it on the way home, and she said what I was thinking, which was after No Way Home, giving us what we expected. Let's face it, but surpassing our expectations with the three Spider-Men.
yeah,
This one, they sort of told us we were going to get these cameos in the trailer.
mm,
Didn't really build on that or use them to a very good advantage because they just killed
mm,
them off.
mm,
It was great to see the fact that Krasinski had been cast, which brings us
hmm,
to maybe, is he going to be the MCU Reed Richards? We don't know yet.
hmm, hmm,
Or is
hmm,
it just fan casting for the sake of it?
yeah,
But yeah, it was just a bit underwhelming. Is not disappointing, just underwhelming.
yeah. I'd agree. I mean, Captain Carter, brilliant.
I mean,
I
that
mean,
was cool.
I love Haley Atwell.
And after watching
Absolutely,
What If, I did say she has to come back. She
yeah,
has to
absolutely,
be
absolutely.
live action.
I adore Haley Atwell. I always have done since
All
the
right,
first
all right.
Captain
She's
America.
not going to go out with you, mate.
I'm just saying, what she might do. Since the first, she doesn't know me. She might do. If anyone can put me in touch. Anyway, no, since the first Captain America film, I think the character of Peggy has. I've always said that Steve Rogers as the most important character in the first three phases of the MCU.
I would tend to agree with you.
In terms of who he is, his story arc as a character, his whole story arc, in terms of volunteering and then to serve his country, and then finding out that everything he fought for in terms of Shield being run by Hydra and all that kind of thing, and then turning against the Sokovia Accords when you would imagine as a patriot that he would be supporting them, you would imagine, but all that kind of thing. I think his character arc was the most interesting in the whole MCU, and a major part of that is Peggy, right?
Sure.
So the whole Peggy Carter thing, and I think Haley Atwell as her performance has always been fantastic, and Captain Carter, I was like, fantastic, live action Captain Carter, brilliant.
Well,
And again, for the brief period that you see her, she is fantastic. I think Maria Rambeau her version of Captain Marvel, great. That's from the comics. She's
Yep.
been Captain Marvel in the comics. And it was brilliant that they managed to get Lashana Lynch back, because obviously when she was in the first Captain Marvel film, she was still quite a kind of newcomer. But obviously since then, she's been in stuff like No Time to Die, and she's obviously now much more in demand. So
Yeah.
the fact that they were able to get her back is brilliant. The fact that they gave Anson Mount another go at Black Bolt, I thought that was great.
It was brave.
Fantastic. He's a good actor, right? I
I
like him.
think
He
it was just brave
plays.
they were going to reuse a character that not many people probably would have seen.
Well, there's that as well, right? Interesting. And I like the fact that they're kind of revisiting some of these characters. Obviously, Professor X is, how to introduce the X-Men without introducing the X-Men.
Yes.
We know who he is, but he never says to Strange that he's a mind-reading mutant. And he
No.
never mentions to Strange that, I have an academy for gifted
Youngsters
kind of thing.
Yeah.
We know that. Strange doesn't know that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe in this universe he doesn't. Right? Maybe it's just him on his own.
Yeah.
Right. So that's cool. And again, getting Patrick Stewart back, the OG, that's cool.
So does this mean that Patrick Stewart has now retaken back the record for portraying one character over a length of time? Because both him and Hugh Jackman had won it.
Yeah.
For when they played Logan, when they were in Logan, sorry, and then Tobey Maguire had it when he reprised his role. So has it now?
Actually. Yeah,
it's just an aside, but yeah,
no,
curious.
No, you might be right. And then obviously, so they're all kind of existing MCU actors, essentially, aren't they? Right? They're all people who have already been associated with those roles.
Correct.
Reed Richards is obviously the outlier, and like you say, that's like Jim from The Office, John Krasinski. That's ultimate fan casting. I would be very surprised if he didn't stay in the role as the MCU.
Me too. And I think they would be very silly not to cast Emily Blunt as Sue Storm. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, now she's already come out and said she wouldn't be interested in doing that.
Yeah, all right.
But that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that was before her husband was cast as Reed Richards, right? I suspect she might have a different perspective now. But you're right, that would be cool to see. That would be cool to see. In terms of him, brilliant. I mean, he's a great actor, right? Obviously, we know him as Jim. We've seen him in A Quiet Place and briefly in the sequel. And obviously he plays Jack Ryan on Amazon, on the Jack Ryan show.
Yeah.
So he's great at kind of the comedy and the humor. He's great at the serious side of things, the action side of things. As a writer and director, he made the Quiet Place films. He's a fantastic director. So he's an
established bloke in the world of filmmaking, is how I want to put it.
Absolutely, and is kind of another example of the MCU being able to snag these quote unquote serious actors, not just like the muscle bound action star kind of roles, but the fact that they can go and get Michael Douglas for Ant-Man, or do you know what I mean, or Lawrence Fishburne, or whoever. I see him more in that category as a more quote unquote serious actor, filmmaker, talent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
So it's quite a catch for Marvel, and I think you're right. I think they'd be daft to now having, it's always a risk giving fans what they want, right? But based on the reaction he got when I watched the film, I think if he wasn't now the main MCU Reed Richards,
they'd be shooting themselves in the foot.
They would. They really would.
Yeah, agreed.
They definitely would. So I think that was great. The whole, the cameos we got were great. It's a shame that more wasn't made of them.
Agreed.
And as you were sort of saying earlier on, there's then the cameos that were rumoured. So, as you said, there was a rumour that Deadpool would appear in one of the after credits scenes. Kind of, I think what I read was that he would appear at the Illuminati headquarters, like just surveying the carnage,
Right.
kind of thing. There were rumours that Hugh Jackman was going to come back as Wolverine.
Yeah. No, not there.
Not there.
There was a rumour that Tom Cruise was going to play Superior Iron Man. And everybody was saying in the trailer, that's Tom Cruise. He wasn't. It was Maria Rambeau.
It was, yeah. But interestingly, though, there was a photograph that was leaked that appeared to show Tom Cruise in a motion capture suit.
No, really?
Did you not see that?
Oh, yeah. I've just seen it.
Yeah. And that was
Is that what fueled the rumour?
That he would be playing Tony Stark with the CGI Iron Man suit.
Unfortunately, the photo looks like Cruise is way too young.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It looks like him, but is it actually him? Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That's the issue. Or is it just someone who happens to look like him and the blurry photo, you can't tell?
It also doesn't look like a real mocap suit, not gonna lie.
Well, there's so many different ones now. But anyway, so that was like a major rumor that he was going to appear. Now, one of the things though is that obviously, as is the case with Marvel, there were lots of reshoots and additional photography done on the film. And Sam Raimi even came out in an interview just a few days ago, I read, where that the first cut of the film, before any reshoots or additional filming, was about 40 minutes longer than the final cut.
I'd be okay with seeing that.
I'd love to see it. But what that means is that not only was 40 minutes taken out, more than 40 minutes was then replaced by whatever reshoots and additional stuff they did.
Yeah, sure.
So we could be looking at maybe an hour or more of kind of unused, unseen footage. And who knows what cameos may have actually been filmed. Maybe Tom Cruise did film a cameo.
Maybe it'll go into something else.
Maybe Hugh Jackman was Wolverine. Maybe he was stood behind Professor X on the blue screen and they just took him out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we don't know. And Disney are kind of not always consistent in terms of releasing deleted scenes and things like that.
Sure.
So it might be stuff we never find out. So I think, so we've got some comments from listeners that have kindly sent in through Twitter, which we'll get to shortly. But I think it's fair to say that our collective lapses in memory have probably given a pretty shaky summary of things, and I think there's a couple of things we've probably missed. First thing, just to cover quickly, is as we're talking now, it's Monday. This is our kind of second session of recording for that seamless.
Ooh, an insight into how the other half live.
Oh, it's seamless, isn't it? You wouldn't know where the cut was.
I wonder if my voice sounds better in this episode, this half as well, because I've had a few days of rest now.
Possibly does. Can anyone guess?
No, the magic of editing.
So I think the first thing probably to mention, actually, now that the weekend is over, is the box office has been fantastic. In the US, it's done $185 million. 265 million outside the US, so $450 million total.
That's not bad for the first week.
That is, well, first 3 days, right?
3 days, of course.
I mean, including previews, I think, from Thursday. But yeah, essentially, that's it. And that's great. I think in terms of domestic openings, it's the second biggest of this pandemic era after Spider-Man. And I think it's in general, I think the third or fourth biggest May opening weekend.
Okay.
Behind a couple of other Marvel films, actually, I think. I think the first two Avengers films were higher. And then this is around 3 or 4. So yeah, people seem to be flocking to it. I think it's like we said when Spider-Man came along and did well, people now just want some good old-fashioned entertainment and escapism, don't they? And the studios have been holding some of these films back, and the floodgates are open, I guess.
True, but I also think because of the whole multiverse thing, how well Spider-Man has done because of fan service, etc. This was a similar concept. I think people are going for that.
Yeah,
but I think this is but I think
Yeah.
this is where it ends at the moment with what's coming up in the Marvel slate. Ant-Man is going to be all multiversey, but I don't think the cameos are going to be that much of a thing. I'm not really sure now where they'll go with that cameo fan service nonsense.
Yeah. I think the most we'll get is long term is probably Reed Richards in the MCU as John Krasinski. I guess they've obviously now introduced the concept, at least, of the X-Men, but I can't see Patrick Stewart coming back for that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So going back to things we may have missed, then I think one of the things we haven't really mentioned is Wong.
Mr. Wong.
Mr. Wong.
Unsung hero, because at the moment it's people have broken things and Wong seems to be there to clear shit up.
Yes.
In Shang-Chi, he was helping people out. In Spider-Man, he's there like, don't go be doing this, don't be doing this. He goes back off to one and assumes camouflage. And in this one, he's like, oh no, what have you done?
Yeah. And I think
he takes his job very seriously.
He does. I think in the first Doctor Strange, I thought it was great as the kind of lead-in for Stephen Strange's character, that kind of introduction to that world. Obviously, in Endgame, he brought the troops through the portals. Fantastic. But it's really good to finally see Benedict Wong actually getting, some decent lines and some decent.
Decent plot points.
Plot points, yeah. Because I think one of the things we've actually forgot to mention completely is that he's forced to help Wanda for much of the film.
Oh yeah, she kind of gets him.
She kind of
gets him under a spell.
Yeah, so he's like, he's actually quite a major character in the film. He's not just there at the beginning and then disappears. So
like he's done in the other ones, but yes.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's great to see him given stuff to do, and I hope we see kind of more of him.
For the benefit of me, the notes say, great to see Benny Wong actually given stuff to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Benny Wong. Can't go wrong with Benny Wong. Now, what did you think of America Chavez as a character?
Okay.
And the actor as a performance?
So, never heard of the actor before. Forgot that there was a younger character in it, to be honest with you. I thought very good. There was very much a get straight in to her story. You open with her and her Strange.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan of the sort of American insignia throughout the... Like, her name was America. She wore an American denim jacket and she punched stars into the universe. That bugged me.
Okay.
It sort of rammed it down the throat too much, and the fact that she had stars on her jacket and she punched stars into, like you say, into the multiverse.
Yeah.
I was like, really? They could have chosen any shape. I'd have taken a rhombus.
Fair. Okay.
But I didn't think she was kiddie. I thought she was quite ahead of her time.
Yeah. She
had some great lines, and she felt like watching her. It felt like she'd been there for a while.
I'd agree. I thought she was really likable. I think she's still quite young. I think she's only 17 or 18. But she's been in other stuff. I think she's been in those kind of Disney Channel shows and.
Let's find out.
So she's not like new to acting.
I'd hope not being cast in a Marvel film.
Well, yeah. But I think her name is pronounced differently to how it's spelt. It's pronounced Sochi, first name, Sochi Gomez. And the only reason I'm confident saying that is because I watched a video where she herself introduced herself. So
Ah.
if that's how she's pronouncing it, that's how I'll pronounce
Here we
it.
are. So she's obviously in Doctor Strange, The Lone Drone, which is a short. The Babysitter's Club I've heard of as a TV
That
series.
was it. Is that a Netflix thing, isn't it? I think.
Probably. And then going back a bit older, not much else that I recognise.
Okay.
Recognise? Recognise.
But yeah, I think she did really well, like coming into such a big spectacle kind of film. I think she did really well. Now
She's got a lot of big characters to. Pardon me. A lot of big characters
if
to.
my burp's staying in, that one's staying in.
You're welcome, listeners.
Yeah.
If she had a lot of. Oh god, another one. A lot of characters to live up to. And I think she held her own.
Yes.
To be honest.
Definitely. Now, at the end of the film, we see her in camouflage, undergoing training, kind of, I guess, trying to control her powers a bit more, as well as maybe develop some new ones. Could you see, something like a Disney Plus show with her and Wong as like the kind of teacher and student?
I mean, I absolutely could, because they're making Disney Plus shows about everything.
True.
We didn't necessarily need a Hawkeye TV show with Kate Bishop, but
it worked really well.
But it worked really well. I'm glad I've had it. But at the same time, it was just unnecessary.
But would you watch something like that? Because I can see that those two kind of had good chemistry, and I can kind of see Wong has that kind of exasperated thing a lot of the time.
I think
mainly because
Strange
strangers piss him off so much.
Yeah, I think it would be amusing. Again, like, trying to think to liken it to something else that's already out there. But like, remember like Sky High?
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Yeah.
Something silly like that.
That's kind of superpowered school kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine like a proper children's X-Men. That's how I always looked at it.
I was just about to say, something like that could also be used to introduce some of the younger X-Men characters.
Yeah, true.
Potentially, as well as a kind of Wong and Professor X's school for gifted youngsters. One thing I kind of thought, and again, it's probably it's far from an original thought, I'm sure, but Wanda's going to all this effort to find her kids that she kind of created out of nothing in WandaVision. She doesn't seem to be that bothered about finding another Vision anywhere. What's going on there?
Well, Vision didn't really have anything to do with generating said children, did he? So maybe she doesn't need him. She needs the kids because they're actually hers. They're her making. And because of the horror of killing, she says, isn't she, in the film, I had to kill the person I loved, or along the lines of that. She doesn't maybe want to stoke that fire up again, hubba hubba. But also, I think she knows that this other Vision is out there. Don't forget
the white Vision.
White Vision,
which is actually the original Vision.
Yes, the Vision we should have had it not been Mind Stoned, right?
Yes, that's right. That's Vision that was created and that we've seen through the last few films. Okay, yeah. So I guess out there somewhere she knows, quote unquote, her Vision is actually still there, even if he doesn't recognize her, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. The horror of somebody losing her kids is probably quite, to some people that's incredibly real. There's a very serious point around that. And when they did the scene where Bad Wanda was attacking Good Wanda in front of her kids to show her kids how evil Mummy can be, that was quite a powerful moment, because they were shit scared of her. And then that was when she went, oh yeah, these aren't my kids, I better be good.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. What did you think of the score?
I mean, it's Danny Elfman, mate. We weren't gonna get shortchanged, were we?
We weren't, but it took me a while to realise it was him.
I saw him on the poster walking in.
Okay, I didn't.
And
I
then,
kind
I
of
mean, I was
scrolled
queuing
straight
for a while,
past.
to be fair.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right under this bloody big like A1 thing. Anyway,
Yeah,
it was good. I haven't listened to it since, but I'm going to. But
yeah.
there was certainly elements of elfisms. Can't say that. Elfmanisms.
There were, I think, more. I kind of started hearing those more towards the end.
Yeah, definitely.
But early on, it felt a little bland. Might not be the right word, but
Who did the
not
music
like
for the original? Was it Giannach? Oh, what's his?
Giacchino.
Yeah, he's done all the other ones at the bloody moment. Was it
He
Tyler
hasn't he?
Bates? Have a look.
Let me have a look. Let's have a quick look.
Stand by for a fact check. Fact check incoming.
Doctor Strange.
By Michael
Giacchino.
Giacchino, yes. So he
Is
did
that
the original Doctor Strange OST,
Mm,
and
okay.
the Doctor Strange theme, if you like, is one of my favourites
Yeah.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I can't really recall much of it
No.
in Elfman's
yeah,
version.
Yeah. No. I liked the score, but normally when it's a Danny Elfman score, you can tell it's a Danny Elfman score. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those kind of composers like Hans Zimmer and
Yeah.
Michael Giacchino, who when it's theirs, you can tell it's theirs. But I didn't get a lot of Elfman vibes until, like I say, kind of towards the end. But okay.
Either way, it was good music for what it was, but like you
Oh,
say,
without a doubt.
was it Elfman-esque? Got into Beetlejuice, but yes, there was certainly Beetlejuice
Yeah.
vibes in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think, and I'm sure there's still going to be people screaming that we've missed something, but I think we've kind of covered most things now, haven't we?
I think so, and who knows? In the future, we could have somebody come on and talk to us about it.
We could.
Oh, could you imagine that?
That'd be awesome.
NDAs.
So on to listener comments. We've
Let's
had
do
a
it.
handful. We've had a few. Okay, so
First of all,
want to?
thank you if you've written in.
No, absolutely. They've actually. I think all of the comments are very valid. There's some good, as you'll hear shortly. There's some very good points made. So let's go with the. Do you want to go with the first one?
Yeah, let's do it.
We can
So,
go from there.
first comment. Are they all from Twitter?
They are all from Twitter. These.
Okay, that makes it nice and easy. So, Nathan Dan 10, thank you for getting in touch to begin with. Great name, great last name anyway. I was quite disappointed with Multiverse of Madness. Not as good as it could have been. This film had the prospect to change the MCU going forward, but didn't take advantage of it. Cameos were quite poor compared to what they could have been, and they made a joke of the force that is supposed to be the Illuminati. I put it to the floor.
Okay, I think in terms of the MCU going forwards, yeah. I wonder with most of the MCU stuff, whether it's a film or a TV show, you feel like this is going to have an impact going forwards on one of the other films or one of the other shows or whatever, right? So obviously WandaVision finished and we knew that the kind of cliffhanger end of credits scene was going to lead into this film. We know when Falcon and Winter Soldier finished, that is then kind of setting up Captain America 4. Loki is obviously setting up all the multiverse stuff that's happened since and over the next couple of years. This one, it kind of felt very self-contained. Yes, there was a cliffhanger, but again, the cliffhanger felt like a very Doctor Strange story cliffhanger. It didn't feel like a wider MCU.
No, especially as we
thing.
with all the films coming out now, we're not aware of Cumberbatch coming back for anything.
No,
So-
and there's been no mention of Charlize Theron's character turning up anywhere else.
No.
This film itself, made no hints. I was expecting, we'd have maybe some hints of Kang.
I was disappointed with the lack of Kang.
Given obviously he was set up in at the end of Loki, we know he's going to be the bad guy in Ant-Man 3. and it's been said he's going to kind of figure throughout the next phase as a looming presence. But there was nothing. This would have seemed like, I'm not saying we necessarily need a scene with him or a cameo with him, but there was no mention of Kang or any of these variants or anything like that, you know. So I know what Nathan's saying here, or Dan. I don't know which one's the first name,
either or.
which is the surname. Either or.
I want to pick up on the comment of the Illuminati, though. They made a joke of them.
On.
Now, I get where that's coming from, because they, in the comics, they are the people that put shit right. They're the most powerful people. La 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 la. But I think their sacrifice was just because they needed to show how powerful Wanda was and how far she could push her powers to get shit done. And alright, yeah, she made a poor joke of Krasinski's Reed Richards pulling him apart like that, and that was horrendous. And killing Black Bolt in such a violent way. Yeah, I get why they had to do it. So it's a cracking opinion, but I don't agree with it.
I guess they want to show that because there's no mention in the film that universe has an Avengers.
Valid.
So I guess if the Illuminati are that universe's version of the Avengers, then yes, it's like, you're right. Look how powerful she is. Here's an example of just how powerful.
I am sick of comic book films where they always win. Like that was the best bit about Infinity Wars. They lost.
Yeah.
And you came out of the theatre going, oh my god, that's the first time that they haven't resolved they've not resolved it.
Yeah.
So
and as well, they call them the Illuminati, and obviously that's a reference to stuff from the comics. But in terms of the characters, they could have just said these are the Avengers.
They could if they wanted
They're just our Avengers from our universe. Because again in the comics, the membership has changed constantly.
So I've just remembered Hayley Atwell's death. Getting halved by her shield. Sorry. Yes. I don't know why it's making me laugh, but it was horrendous.
It was actually.
So now I'm agreeing slightly more of it. They made a joke of it, but vibranium shield going through you.
But that was a callback to the zombie Captain America death in What If, wasn't it, as well? But there's the What If version was actually more graphic because it was animated. But I think they could have easily just have said we're the Avengers.
Yeah, they could have. But I think the Illuminati are going to come into it in our 616 in our universe.
Okay, all right, yeah. No, that's.
Thank you for your comment, Nathan. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Nathan, Dan. Yeah.
So this is from the brilliantly named Grit McPunchfist. Quite a long message here, but certainly some highlights to pick out. One, he says, and I think he might be right here, that the Darkhold should have had more screen time or build-up in terms of its introduction. I think he's probably right there. I think it came in very quickly at the end of WandaVision.
It was the after creds as well, wasn't it?
Well, it was the book that Agatha had, wasn't it, in her basement, which I think Wanda managed to get. But then you see it briefly in the basement in Agatha's house. Then, yes, you see this after credit scene of Wanda reading it. And now all of a sudden, here it is being used. So there's no kind of... It all kind of happened very quickly. And I think definitely, although they did have a little bit of dialogue for people who may not have seen WandaVision to kind of summarize what had happened, they could have maybe done with a little bit more. Just,
I agree with that. I think
bringing that in.
As powerful as the thing is, it was very much as a dark magic book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was there a dark magic book?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He also says that the Xavier Mind Palace scene would have been perfect for a Necronomicon style bit of exposition.
What does that mean?
Well, I think what he means there is there's a scene in Evil Dead
Right, okay.
where they're in the basement of the cabin and they find the Necronomicon, but they also find a tape recording by a guy who was studying it. And they listen to the tape recording, and that kind of explains what the Necronomicon is. So I think perhaps
Gotcha.
what he means here is that as Xavier goes into Wanda's mind, that they can kind of have a conversation in there, or he can see through her memories to understand more about it.
Right,
Do you know
okay,
what I mean?
Thank you. That makes more sense now.
Because it does. I think he's right. He's saying, that because to give Wanda more justification around being a concerned mother at the end of WandaVision, switching to a relentless murderer within 5 minutes of being introduced in Multiverse of Madness. I think there did need to be something more there about the Darkhold to just explain what it was and the kind of power that it has.
That's fair.
One thing he did love, right, was the character development for Strange himself, and I would agree there. I think in the first Strange film, he was a bit of an arrogant dick. In Infinity War, he was a bit of an arrogant dick.
I mean, it all changed when he got puffed into sand. He's certainly changed since Infinity War and Endgame.
But even in Spider-Man, he was still a bit of an arrogant dick to the kids, wasn't he?
No, I think he was very much stop mucking things about because I'm sick of this shit now. That's how I've taken him since Infinity War.
Okay, no, fair enough. But I think he's right here. I think in terms of this film, we certainly see a lot more kind of his development. Also, again, Grit McPunchfist agrees with us that Wong was stellar as always, and as the Sorcerer Supreme, really fits that role.
Definitely.
Well, and again, he says it was a decent intro to America Chavez as a character. And again, we forgot to mention Christine, who was kind of sidelined quite a lot in the original film, and it was great to see her back. And not just as the original version of the character, but this new alternate universe version as well.
Yeah,
who was definitely a lot more. As he says here, given a lot more agency, she was a lot more
directly involved.
Yeah,
a lot more involved with the plot progression, not just there as a supporting character for the sake of it.
That's it, absolutely, yeah. So that was great, and I think I read an interview with is it Rachel McAdams, the actor, who said that she wasn't expecting to be asked back.
Oh, that's a shame.
She thought the original was her only kind of thing, but that she really enjoyed coming back and obviously having more to do with this different version. So yeah, absolutely. I'm glad he reminded us of that because we missed that one again.
One thing it's popped into my head.
Yeah.
How come Wanda didn't have a third eye? Just ponder that. Maybe that's just that. Maybe that's for the listeners to tell us.
That's a good point. Didn't they differentiate between magic that they do and sorcery that she does?
Possibly. No, it's the other round, isn't it?
It was something like that. Sorry, it was actually might have been the other way around.
Yeah, they're sorcerers. She's a witch.
That's right. So perhaps
maybe
it affects them in different ways.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because Sinister Strange got the third eye. Our Strange did. Yeah.
Anyway, ponder the thought. Let us know. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's do another comment. Thank you.
Another comment.
Thank you, Gritch. Oh Christ. Thank you, Grit McPunch Fist.
Go try it one more go.
No, that's fine. He knows who he is. Dan Bullock, thank you for getting in touch. Strange was at its best when it was being weird and chaotic, and disappointing that Chavez didn't get a proper emotive character build, considering she's very likeable. Wong is the MVP, couldn't agree more. Cumberbatch and Olsen obviously very good, but heavy in exposition, and it felt like an old comic book film.
Okay.
I agree with he was great when there was so much going on, and he had to flip, from sorting out bits going on over here, bits going on over there, and I'm gesturing with my arms. And when it was just purely batshit, he was on fire. Because I think Benedict's very good at. He would have made an excellent Doctor Who, and he would. I mean, he's a great Sherlock Holmes for that reason.
Yeah.
He can do chaotic.
Yeah.
Really well.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means by felt like an old comic book film.
Not sure.
Could that be because, like, if you go old comic book film, you know, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is like 20 odd years old now.
It is, isn't it?
That's an old comic book film. I don't know.
Possibly. I know what you're saying about Chavez getting a bit more of a build up to the character, but then we do we're introduced to Chavez and her version of Strange literally right in the middle of a huge action sequence, aren't we? There's no gentle introduction. We see them running for their lives. She jumps through the portal, and then a couple of minutes later, she's there in New York with our Strange being attacked and so on. So there's a little flashback to when she was a kid, but that's about it, really. Yeah, maybe that'll come in future film or TV shows or wherever she appears next. But yeah, and I think he's right in the film itself, when it's being weird and chaotic. Is that what he means, or does he mean Strange as a character or the film? I was at its best when being weird and chaotic.
Either way, it works.
But yeah, it works. Well, again, it's the whole Sam Raimi thing, isn't it? It's just that wild and kind of chaotic kind of style. Felt like an old comic book film. Yeah, I guess if you're thinking of that, Sam, yeah, Spider-Man's 20 years old now. I mean, what else did we have before then? We had Blade. We had X-Men was around the same sort of time.
Yeah, I don't really know how to take that comment. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know how you mean it, if that makes sense, Dan.
Yeah. Does he mean it was maybe a little bit more talky?
Possibly.
Because I thought, to be fair, it was talky, but I don't think it skimped on the action.
There was a certain good threshold of action sequences that kept you going. I didn't find it lulled. I was quite happy by that.
No. It certainly kept moving. But
no, thank you for your comment, Dan.
Definitely. Last one from Ian Hunt. So, I watched Doctor Strange last night and really enjoyed it. The opening was great. The ending was mad. Yeah. But I thought there was a bit of a lull in the middle. The camouflage bit mainly. Okay. We'll come back to that. Seemed to me a lot of the dialogue early on and in the middle was a bit on the nose, and just to explain why they were going from A to B. Yeah, I guess potentially, yeah. I loved how Raimi it was, though. As a big fan of The Evil Dead, camera moves, transitions, how much horror inflection he got into it. Thought that was great. This was mainly the second half of the film, so I prefer that to the first half. Yeah, I think
it was Raimi. We've said that it was a Raimi movie. It was
very Raimi through and through. You're right.
Just keep saying what I'm saying, Mark. It's okay.
I'll keep saying what you're saying. It's okay. The lull in the middle, I don't know. I thought the camouflage bit.
I didn't even realise that was a comment because I didn't think it lulled, and I have the attention span of a goldfish. Oh, look, a squirrel.
When they went to camouflage, I kind of.
I thought it was needed because these two sorcerers, as powerful as they were, needed backup, right? They needed somewhere that they could play Wanda on their ground.
Yes.
And, it's a bit like why they go to Wakanda in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And then, why they don't have a choice on the campus in Endgame, but they were fighting their turf where they should have had the upper hand.
Yes. I think when they talked about going to camouflage, to be fair, those scenes of the training stuff in the first film were not my favourite. So I did kind of go, I hope this isn't a boring bit. I was kind of expecting a lull, if you know what I mean. But then Wanda turns up pretty quickly and it all goes mental again. I I know what he's saying about the dialogue, and a lot of it was on the nose to get where they were, to explain where they were going. But I
But
guess
sometimes that's quite nice, because sometimes you just go, why the bloody hell have they done that?
well, there is that, and as I say, they had to fit in a little recap for people who'd not seen WandaVision, right, to explain what had gone on there, perhaps. But he's definitely right in that the second half of the film kind of, once it picks up, does not let go.
No,
You
quite
know
right.
what I mean? It's definitely a film where the second half is better than the first. I will give him that without a doubt. But I don't personally feel like it lulled. But I guess everyone's got their own.
Because what was the run time? Let's have a little look.
It was only a touch over 2 hours.
Multiverse of Madness. 2 hours 6.
And you've got to have 10 or 15 minutes of that is just the end credits, right?
Yeah, so the first one is an hour 55.
Yeah.
And we are... we always are disappointed, I feel now, if Marvel films are an hour and a half. You know, if they're less than 2 hours, we think, bloody hell, what are they doing?
Oh, yeah. And this is in the age of Endgame. And even Spider-Man was, what, 2.5 hours long? Something like that?
Something like that.
So I think, yeah, I don't feel like it. Personally, I don't feel like it lulled. But I guess everyone's got their own kind of threshold, let's say, of come on, hurry up, get moving again, kind of thing. I do think it's a film, possibly more than any other of Marvel's films, that would really benefit from a longer cut.
Yes, because again, we could have a lot more backstory to bits and bobs that we've missed.
Because if he's saying that he took out 40 minutes of footage, that
release
40
the
minutes,
Raimi cut. Come on, you heard it here first.
I can't imagine them doing it, because I don't think Disney. Well, they've never released an extended cut of any of the Marvel films, right?
Quite right.
It is what it is. They are patchy when it comes to deleted scenes. Would they include 40 minutes worth of deleted scenes on DVD?
They wouldn't, would they?
They wouldn't. But I think this is one film where, how can I put this? It's like, I think this is the film where, more than any other, it's been the director's film and not a Marvel film.
Well, yeah, because he's breaking the Marvel mold, if you like.
Yeah.
Because, you know, think of the Russos. They did straight up action, right?
Yeah.
They were the Marvel mold. Even what's his name? Who's doing John Watts, who did the Spider-Man films.
Yep.
You know, same sort of thing, Marvel mold. This is the first time where it's not been action and, you know, butterflies throughout the whole thing. It's been scary, you know.
Yeah. Because, like you were saying about the Russos, right, or John Watts, or Peyton Reed, or who does the Ant-Man films, or Jon Favreau, who started the Iron Man films, or whatever. Those visually are all completely interchangeable, right? As good as the Russos are, and they are brilliant at directing the actors, ultimately they're not the ones directing the action, right? There's a team of second unit directors and stuntmen and action coordinators who work on all these films and make sure that the action is as slick and as impressive as it can be, and lets the directors get on with directing the actors.
Yeah.
Right, for the dialogue scenes or whatever that might be, right? You know, Kenneth Branagh directing Thor isn't directing the big spectacular action stuff, right? He's directing Thor and Anthony Hopkins debating, you know, whether he's deserving of power or not, okay? Whereas this truly felt like, even if Sam Raimi himself wasn't actually directly directing the action sequences, they were done in his style. It's like I was saying before about, even though a lot of the stuff is obviously CG, you know, majoritarily, or if not completely, they're using the virtual camera in the same way that he would have used the physical camera on the Evil Dead
Sure.
films. So it's the first one where you look at it. I mean, we know who directed all the Marvel films, right? We can tell anyone who directed the Marvel films. But if you sit someone down who only has a passing interest in them or doesn't watch them at all, don't care who directed them, they would not be able to tell you whether Iron Man was directed by the same person who did the Avengers or Captain America: Civil War, right? Because they're all, and this isn't a criticism. It's one of the things that Marvel do really well, but they're all visually of a piece, right? There's a consistent visual style that they have over all those films.
Yeah,
with a few little tweaks, like the Eternals with Chloe Zhao. I brought a little bit more into it, but on the whole, they are all of a consistent piece. This is the first one where it's like, oh, this looks different. It feels different. And if you're a Sam Raimi fan, you'd go, this feels like a Sam Raimi film.
Yeah, I've recently got the Evil Deads to go through just to compare because yeah, I'm sold.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, of course
This
I do.
feels like it's like I said earlier. It's the thing of, did Sam Raimi make a Marvel film or did Marvel make a Sam Raimi film?
Sure.
And I think it's more the latter. Obviously, he's still got to work within the confines of the overall
The bigger
story,
picture, yeah.
the bigger picture, the Phase 4 and all that kind of thing. And yes, there were reshoots and rewrites and whatever. But I think it's the first time where you've actually gone, like, here is a director who's actually really stamped their visual style on it. And I wonder if that might help Marvel loosen their grip a little bit on the filmmakers. Because if Sam Raimi can come in and make whatever the budget is, $200 million, whatever, and it's made $450 million in its first weekend, and it's going to go on, and I'm sure it'll make a hell of a lot more. Maybe Marvel will go, oh, well, let's take a few more gambles. Let's get a few more visually distinctive directors.
Yeah.
Whatever you think of what Warner Brothers have done and messed up, their overall plans for the DC universe, it started off with Zack Snyder, who is a visually, distinctive director.
Yeah.
And they trusted him to come in and put his stamp on it. Do you know what I mean?
I'm completely behind you on Snyder. I feel that they should have taken a gamble and let other directors come in for a time because he directed so much for them. But when you come back to the Justice League and they did the Snyder cut, granted it's not the film he would have set out to make had he finished it the first time round, but again, yes, it was the right.
But you
get it. Yeah, you look at the two cuts and you can tell one is not Zack Snyder.
It's nothing like Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
and it's got that bland. Again, that's not necessarily a criticism. It's got that that Marvel look to it. The bright, bold, colourful. When actually Zack Snyder wants it desaturated, high contrast, dark. But I'm glad that after Scott Derrickson left, that Marvel actually went, do you know what? If we're going to make a horror film, quote unquote horror film, let's actually get in someone who knows how to make a fucking horror film.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, yes, Scott Derrickson is a horror director as well. He's made horror movies. But like Sam Raimi is like the godfather of horror. Who better to get in, And I just hope that for their kind of future films, if they're gonna go, they're gonna go down the route of bringing in characters like Blade and obviously more Doctor Strange and the the group, the Midnight Suns, isn't it? So you got Blade, Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah, of course.
And some of those kind of darker characters. Give Ghost Rider to to
Sam
someone
Raimi.
who's, well, give them all to Sam Raimi, but give Ghost Rider to someone who's made, some low budget action movie. Kind of give Ghost Rider to, I don't know who does shit like that, but Lee Winnell.
Nah, James Wan.
Or James, well, he's done the big budget shit as well now. But
Yeah.
give someone like that. Well, actually, no, I see what you mean, because they both came from Saw, didn't they? They both come from Saw. Give someone like that one of these films. It doesn't have to be expensive, right? It can,
Doesn't have to be expensive.
Well,
it's
it
a Marvel
doesn't
film,
have
mate.
to. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be expensive. They make them expensive, but they don't have to be. You can do a lot on a medium budget with some talent behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? So I'm hoping that this kind of gives Marvel the kind of confidence, let's say.
Yeah, like you say, to loosen the vice slightly.
Just to go, okay.
Because what had Sam Raimi done of recent?
I think the last thing he did was that fucking Wizard of Oz film about 10 years ago.
Oh, The Great and Powerful.
Yeah. That was 9 or 10 years ago, and he's done nothing since. What a waste.
Have a quick look, sorry.
I think the thing he did before that was Drag Me to Hell, which was brilliant.
That was Sam Raimi?
That was Sam Raimi.
Well, it was as well, yeah. That scared the shit out of me.
But
yeah,
what a great film.
Great and Powerful, he directed one episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead. He did a bit of TV, Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on.
Go on.
Was Rotten Tomatoes. So the tomato meter currently for critics is 75%, and the audience score is 87%.
Oh, wow, that's good.
It's higher than I thought, because I thought it was going to get review bombed, which we won't go into, but I just thought it was going to.
Yeah.
I'm glad it hasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a curious anecdote I wanted to throw in there. Overall, I would give it 3 out of 5.
I would give it 7 or 8 out of 9.
15 out of 26.
Because it's not quite up there for a film that could be marked out of 10. It's not one of those 10 out of 10 films.
No, it missed
so
some potential.
But I think it's...
But it was a solid film overall.
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure I will see it again.
I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
But what I really want to see are those deleted scenes.
I still want to see the deleted scenes from No Way Home, but there we are. Still waiting for them.
Yeah. Well, that's Sony, isn't it, for you? Hopefully, Marvel will release at least a decent selection of deleted scenes. My dream would be that they would go, okay, let's do a director's cut. Let's really break the mold for a second time with the same film. And that's what I think that's where I was starting to go before we went off on a tangent earlier on, is that they got Sam Raimi in. He's given them an absolute undoubted blockbuster hit. Second biggest opening behind their last blockbuster hit, Spider-Man, right? He's proven that he can be trusted to deliver a massive hit. Wouldn't it be fantastic if they went, do you know what? We did all these reshoots, but if you want to put together a director's cut, go
Crack
for
on.
it.
Yeah.
Even if it was like just exclusive to Disney Plus, even if you couldn't buy it. Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
I'd buy into it. Yes, of course I would. I'm all for seeing it. I know.
I can't imagine it happening, but that would be brilliant if they could go, thank you for that. please do a director's cut. Come on, Kevin, if you're listening. I don't know who you are. I know you're listening.
Kevin writes in every week. We just don't want to give him the satisfaction.
It does. It keeps asking to come on.
Kevlar.
Kevin. I'm going to have to take out a restraining order. I warned you. we're not interested. Just
Not
leave
interested.
it. It's not going to happen.
It's like a weird jealous ex.
It's just not destined.
We're over you, Kev. Move on. But in all seriousness,
I think have we now managed to cover everything?
probably not. But I think
no.
I think if the poor soul listening to this is still with us, good effort. Thank you very much. If you've written in, thank you very much. That was a really nice surprise.
Yeah, that was great, and there's some really good comments there. I think everyone. I think most of the comments were kind of along the same kind of gist, really, weren't they? As well, I think everyone enjoyed the same kind of bits and had the same reservations.
Mm-hmm.
But what a great film! I think we'll probably wrap up there.
Yes.
So we are gonna have a break, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, just to
recharge, man.
Recharge a little bit, I am sure in the meantime, if anyone has got any comments and questions, do keep sending them over, and we will perhaps revisit, just do a little catch up.
Or we
on the
could
next
always
episode.
do a listener special.
We could, if we get enough, we could always do a listener special. If there are any listeners who, in fact,
if there's any listeners listening,
but if there's any listeners who actually want to join us and chat properly rather than just us read comments,
we can do it.
We can absolutely
do it.
We have the technology, so we'd be more than up for that. Get in touch. The usual places, we're on Twitter at Culture Trumpet. The email is podcast@culturetrumpet.com. You can get in touch via the website.
You can smash that like button. Smash that subscribe.
Like
ring that bell. I've been watching YouTube.
Yes, so we're on all the usual places. Don't forget we're on YouTube as well if you want to listen, watch us there. And we'll see you in a few... Well, we won't see you.
Not at all, hopefully not.
You'll hear us in a few weeks.
Like the wind, we're gone.
We're gone.
Cut it there.
Yeah.